When I'm on this game, I play a lot of 80s now, and actually have augments, so that's why. And the thing that I notice the most about the bracket is not some magical skill increase that people have been yapping to psyop me into queuing that bracket, but rather that this game runs like fucking garbage. Deathfield just straight up misses when you put it on the target. You have to like lead it in front of them. Like, how is that what the equilibrium desync is? How is that more than 4 meters? And oh my god, I have a 3070, an i9, DDR5, all the shitty Vulkan files, everything. I need them for other games anyway. And like, you cannot tell me that this shit is my fault. You are actually on meth if you think that this game that is made of Play-Doh, as soon as 2 Sorks enter the game, just needs a fucking NASA computer and that's fine. Anyway, before I got the Augs and, you know, before I had the homies around in 80s to actually play with, because we all know this game is only fun when you're with your friends doing silly goofies, right?
Huh?
Okay, who's gonna be fucking man enough to 1v1 me? I bet all you bitches are gonna fucking lose.
Anyway, I discovered that Lowe's has its own qualities that are a little charming and silly, and I went ahead and parsed every single spec at level 43 in PvP bolster using the Warzone dummy on Rishi. I don't think this Warzone dummy has expertise, because I feel like I'm hitting it way too hard for it to have expertise like the ship, but I don't really know. Anyway, I didn't want to bother doing the abilities on the operation dummy to like set it up and all that shit and have the accuracy on every spec. The Warzone dummy only has 5% white damage dodge chance, which is like, you know, realistic, so that's what I ran with. I have experience playing and parsing every single spec in the game at like 99th percentile level. The only spec that I really get rank 1s on though is Hatred, but it's whatever. Anyway, I think these should be fine representations of what these specs do in Lowe's. I've played all of them in Lowe's too. But maybe you can do better. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. I gave myself a 3 attempt limit for each parse because I don't want to be here all day. I also don't want to be unfair to certain specs, though 3 attempts isn't really a big enough sample size, so who knows? Maybe some numbers are a little wonky, but anyway. Should be good. Should be good for the tier list and all that stuff. So, yeah. A little disclaimer, Lowbie numbers are a lot lower than 80s since a lot of important passives and abilities just straight up don't exist. You do get a higher tertiary stat pool, but it isn't really enough to compensate for like a million abilities and a ton of passives and all that stuff, and it's a whole thing. With each spec I'll show the parse number, some gameplay, some screenshots, and then I will rank it on the tier list at the end. But yeah, just know that while like 15k on Carnage, for example, is nowhere near screenshot worthy if you're in 80s, it's actually pretty good in lows since you only have basic attack and massacre. That's like all you get. But it's a very fun bracket. It's got its own bizarre quirks and qualities that make it worth checking out. So yeah, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to start by getting the heal specs out of the way, and for this one I'm just ordering them by viability because the HPS parse doesn't really make sense for this. But yeah, here is Corruption. It is by far the worst spec in any bracket of any MMO ever. As you can see, it looks like it's doing a lot, and it is. It's doing like over 50k right now. But as soon as you run out of force, you get sent to the cuck chair. Sorkiel does not have any of the passives that it needs to function at all. You don't get innervate shit, so I would really not recommend playing this at all. The easy F tier, like it's in a tier of its own. Garbage, don't touch Sorkiel. Okay, Op Heal is next. It's actually amazing. It can output a ton of HPS with energy, positive priority system. You get HOTS, you get AoE Kolto, you get Nano. You get Infusion, and your basic heal has its energy passive at level 43, so on 1.3 GCD it's really easy to manage your energy. The only downside is you don't have a lot of options against Tunnel if you have no tank, and yeah, you have Stealth, but if you're Stealth you're not doing anything for the team. It's like, if you remember playing in solos, the Deception Sin stealths out to passive heal in a tank heal game, and you're like, buddy, come on, what are you doing? But anyway, the spec has the overall highest healing output in the bracket with an insane burst window of over 130k HPS in that 10-second chunk. Like, that's crazy. But yeah, I'm gonna put the spec in A-. Oh yeah, I personally like Mercule a bit more than Op-Heal. I usually do less HPS with it in 8s, but Mercule is better in most scenarios because it has more tools for staying alive, and a ton of its healing comes from AoE shells, so you don't even need to be doing stuff really. And you can also put out a lot of single target burst healing when you have supercharge up and stuff while you're getting your shells going. I personally would not recommend playing the spec before 39 just because you need AoE shells for it to really be cooking. I still remember the first time I saw the Mighty Hammer 1 drop like 20k protecting the troops. Spec is a lot safer in arena queue for any tankless scenario because you have DR, you have knock, you have a bunch of stuff. I'm gonna put this in A tier. Okay, so now we're to the actual DPS specs, which are properly ordered by their DPS output. DPS specs also include tanks, because, you know, tanks should be pumping. First here is shield tech. So, PT tank got pretty cucked by the explosive fuel nerf, but in cleave scenarios it can actually do pretty well. Heat management is really forgiving on this, and you can do decent damage when you have stacks and firestorm up. The big draw to play PT tank in lows is the thermal yield infinite DR hack, shield, colto, grapple. It makes this thing super aids for range specs to play into. This is probably the best tank into tank tunnel. It's a sturdy bitch. I'm going to put this in... Okay, I'm thinking I want to put this thing in C tier. It gets so outclassed by the other tank specs, as you'll see. I don't know if that's fair to, like, judge it, but it does fuck all damage, man. It's C tier. Next we have a very surprising spec, Annie. So I don't know what they did to the scaling of this shit, but it is bizarre. Even though it's miraculously rage positive, you don't need the basic attack when you play Annie in lows. It does fuck all single target damage. It can pump if you spread your dots. Force Rend is still ticking for over 10k, which is cool. You have a lot of berserk uptime, it's nice. But it's really underwhelming in terms of DPS. It's very hard to rank a spec like Annie because in 8s where your goal is max DPS, this shit is garbage. But in arenas, Mara DCDs, which are insane in lows, you get Saber Ward, Cloak of Pain, Pred, Camo, and you have a gap closer. All Mara specs are nasty by default, so I don't really know what to do with Annie. I'm thinking B tier, you know, average out its A-ish rating in arenas and its C-ish rating in 8s. You just play it like solos, but in this bracket nobody can chase you or find you hiding in the walls on Corellia or whatever. You heal a lot, works with healing relics, so yeah, B. Alright, Sin Tank is next, and oh my god, this video is long, and maybe I'll speed this shit up. I don't think I can show the whole parses for these. Anyway, this is amazing. The spec is amazing. 19.5k, but it's a tank, whatever. By level 43, you have Taunt Heal, AoE Taunts, cooldown reduction on Dark Ward. You get Dark Ward, AoE Depth Volt, Spike. On top of that, you get the tertiary stat pool available with Augment Bolster, which lets you have the equivalent of 80s Skank stats with 80s Mitt stats at the same time. It's crazy. Spec is the best tank in the bracket for actually tanking. The range on Depth Volts also lets you stay near almost any guarded target while putting out pressure, and Sin Swaps are easy as balls because Depth Volts gives you like a cutscene to see who's going to need guard. The spec can 1v4 arenas as well, and it does a ton of damage in 8s with cleave, and even minimal cleave. It's good. S tier. Okay, Pyro is next, and PT in general just doesn't have access to what it needs to pump. Again, the explosive fuel nerf, super cucked lows DPS on PT specs. Steering Wave doesn't even get its passive, so it does less damage than Flame Burst. It's a very slightly stronger Flame Sweep in a cone. It has no place in the single target parse, which is hilarious, and it kind of tells you what you need to know about Pyro. Flaming Fist is very good cleave. You can tab dot and rail shots dot and auto crit make it pretty strong. But this thing is not the best to play. I'm going to put it in C tier right above Shield Tech. Alright, next up with a very small DPS increase is AP. Simultaneously crazy and really underwhelming. It has double energy burst since you can pop power yield before the game starts, which is kind of nuts and lows. You can refresh Tractable Blade on one target, but you can't keep it up and cleave because you don't get Shatter Slug and you don't get Rail Shot proc. The only thing that really sucks about this spec is it has terrible heat management. You need to basic attack almost every second global, and that is not the most fun thing. Once you have your power load stacks though, it is party time. You can absolutely dumpster people on AP, and just because it has grapple, it's not too bad in arenas. You can deal with ranged. I'll put it in, dang, I don't know, B, I guess, B tier, just because its sustain is bad, its burst can be mitigated. Yeah, once your burst is gone, you really can't do much, so. Okay, next up is lethality. I thought this would parse a bit higher, but it does have terrible energy problems in this bracket, and you have to basic attack a lot. Also, dots don't scale very well in lows. They don't scale very well in 80s either anymore. When amps were a thing, they scaled very strong relative to every other form of damage, but now, not as much, and in lows you really feel it. But Leth is one of the best melee specs in the bracket. Do not let this low 22k parse fool you. Just like in solos, it can carry hard in arenas. Yeah, it has a very consistent high output if you go by DPS plus HPS, since it can tap dot, spread with haze, use its free call, then refresh your hots on the team. You can kind of do that cycle. That's basically how you should always play Leth anyway, if you're not trolling. The hots are kind of nuts. Yeah, and if you combine DPS and HPS, this shit averages like 15k or 16k per game, which by low standards, that is very good. So, yeah, I'm going to put this in A-. Alright, next up we get the spec that makes you the main character, which is Immortal. The last tank spec in the game on this parse list, and holy fuck, this thing is juiced for lows. This shit is not natty. You get basically everything you need to play Jug Tank in this bracket. You get Aegis, Crushing Blow, Taunt Damage, Passive, AoE Scream, White Damage, Passive, Choke, Intercede, Execute, Endure, Med Pack, Push. So much shit is here. You'll hit 90k Crushing Blows, 40k Screams, 30k Enrages, 30k Smashes. The spec does so much single target burst, while the whole thing is just option select cleave. You also do like 5k HPS just by existing when you have Taunt Heal at 43 with the Mending Relic. This is probably my favorite spec to play in the bracket, even though it's susceptible to Tank Tunnel, which is super cringe, but it happens a lot in lows. It isn't as good as Sin at actually like tanking and mitigating damage, but I gotta put this shit in S tier for the insane fun factor. Like, it is just, it's too much fun. You do too much damage, you're just cooking the whole lobby. It's beautiful. I'm gonna put it in S tier. I'm even gonna put it above Darkness, I think, because I love it. Okay, IO is next. Also, for the tier list, the like closer it is to the left is like, that's better, and then further to the right is like shittier. I don't know why. That is the ordering that I chose. I don't know if it's always like that or if it's the other way around when other people do these. Anyway, IO is up. It's great. You hit hard. You have a lot of mobility. You can heal. So you got Mending Relic. You have good cooldowns. The spec is really strong once it gets the Thermal Debt rework. And heat management is surprisingly very easy. It does good damage consistently, and it is very punishing to chase because of how obnoxious Sticky Dart is. Like, melee, just they can't do anything to you on Merc in this game, in this bracket, I should say. But even in 80s, Merc is still Merc. Like, you know, Mara got fucking castrated, but Merc still gets to play the game. So, yeah, I'm gonna put this in. I'm going to put it in A, solidly in A. It's range DPS, it's got everything, it's party time. Alright, next up is Hatred. This is my favorite spec in the history of the game. I love this. Sadly, in lows it only works at level 43 and 44, because without Raise it is terrible. But you can do good damage. You get to spread Discharge. Discharge ticks pretty hard. Creeping Terror would probably be too powerful in lows, but even with one dot, you get a lot. You always run Maliciousness in this bracket, since the Infinite Force talent doesn't work without its associated passives. You don't heal from Discharge in this, or Eradicate or whatever. Hatred is very fun in lows, but it's a bit oof when you're chasing ranged on 15% DR, and Sin cooldowns in lows are pretty bad. So, yeah, I'm going to put this thing in B+, just because the damage is there. I see the vision. This thing can cook. Oh man, oh yeah, fuck the devs. They suck fat cock and balls. I don't know why they killed my boy. I used to enjoy playing this game, and now I can't even fucking play Carnage the way Allah prescribes for us in the Quran. Yeah, I'm shaking and crying, dude. Yeah, they took away the fun part of the spec, which was turbo zoomies. Was not broken. That's my hot take. You know, it was doing like 17, 18k on average in 80s games. That's still fucking way less than Lightning, Viru. Marksman does more. Like, man. Anyway, yeah, it still does good damage, and it has a lot of its passives and lows. You get 25% massacre crit. Or the damage one. I think the damage one is like very, very slightly better if you take driving gore, but I use gore spam now that you can't zoom. Yeah, pretty good DPS games on Carnage for low standards, and it's amazing in arenas because you get gore spam, you get infinite health bars, so you just reset. I'm gonna put this in A minus probably. Yeah, A minus with the left feels good. Oh yeah. Now we get to Arsenal. This spec impressed me. I did not expect it to do as much damage as it does, and it has a very easy time managing heat. I did not think its heat management would be so chill in lows, but it is really fucking easy. Your burst window is nuts. You press 4 buttons, and you have Merc cooldowns, which are always nasty. The only downside of Arsenal over IO is that it isn't as mobile, but like, I don't know. The people who say Arsenal isn't mobile, in my opinion, are playing Arsenal wrong. I feel like that shit is pretty mobile. And you just kill whatever's closest to you. And then, like, the mobility issue doesn't really matter. It's kind of just what you do. Yeah, I'm going to put this solidly in A tier with IO. I think it's on par with IO. There's a tiny difference in mobility, which is like a whole thing. Arsenal can't tab dot. But it does way more damage. Sustained DPS is like pretty good. Alright, next up we get Vengeance. You don't get cut to pieces. You don't get Vengeful Slam. Smash is actually worse damage on Vengeance than like Vicious Slashes, which kind of cringe. I don't know. But its dots are scaled actually pretty well. If you take the 50% damage buff on like the application of Shatter, it does like quite a bit. The per activation on Shatter is like pretty impressive by low standards. Yeah, I don't really know. I'm gonna just throw this thing in B. I feel like Jug can kind of get cucked in this bracket, but it's alright. It's alright. It's cool. Jug is good. And now right ahead of Vengeance we get Rage. So you might notice the scaling on a lot of these specs is like class specific kinda. Feels like depending on when like classes get certain passives or whatever, it's a big deal. But anyway, Rage is here. Hits really hard by low standards, and you always run the thing that lets you spam your Rage consuming abilities in Rage. It's good. It's good. You hit hard. Yeah, I don't really know. It's Rage, dude. It's fucking Rage. I'm gonna put this thing in B+. It's not as good as it is in 80s, not as good as it is in mids. I remember in mids, dude, I was parsing like 44k on this dummy. That was something. And yeah, superiority is not too impressed by Low's Rage, but it works. Alright, next up we have Fury. It's barely ahead of Rage. It doesn't have like the crit buff that Rage has, but it does get a crit buff on 43 tied to Berserk, which you take in lows. So it like barely beats it, I guess. Great burst window, great cleave, and best of all, it comes with the Mara DCD package, which is a fucking hilarious sentence after playing this in 80s. Fury is probably the most consistent melee spec. It's probably the best melee spec in lows, at least melee DPS. You get 2 gap closers, you get 2 movement resets, and you have a few 10-meter abilities. So yeah, it's super solid. It's a great spec for 1vxing. It does a ton damage in 8s. It can carry arenas. I'm a big fan of Fury. I'm feeling A or A+, but I'm gonna give it an A just because A+ is reserved and S is reserved for some bangers. Conk is next. I knew Conk was gonna go hard in this bracket. I didn't expect it to beat out some of the specs below it, but yeah, it's pretty good. You get infinite energy with free Sucker Punch. All of your abilities hit hard. Once you hit 39, you take Crippling Throw. I'm not using it in this parse, I'm using Auto Crit, but You can kind of chase down range specs with Crippling Throw. Still not really if they know what they're doing. There are some specs that you, no matter what, you will not touch them if they're not a bot. But Conk can like walk every melee spec on a leash while it heals itself. It's nuts. And yeah, it's really solid at clutching arena endgames. It can 1v2, can 1v2 against other geared players. It's strong. Frag Grenade is actually decent cleave filler as well by low standards, and you do pretty good DPS on the spec. Probe fits in as like perfect filler on the GCDs where I overload shot in this parse, which makes Conk flow really nice. The only downside is that it doesn't have a gap closer, so you don't want to be out in the open versus range, but if you play Conk well, you're chilling. I'm going to put this thing in A-, I think. Alright. Viru is the first of the sniper specs on this list, which tells you something about how sniper performs in lows. This is the only sniper spec that gets like true positive energy shit. You don't have to basic attack on Viru, especially in PvP when you can tab dot. You have both dots, Corrosive Grenade spreads dart, you get call, you can suppressive fire spam indefinitely. Sniper cooldowns are limited, so you will trade deaths for DPS and 8s, especially when you're solo queuing. In arenas, I would recommend the Healing Egg from the Agent storyline combined with the Mending Relic and the Absorb Relic to provide some kind of survivability and, you know, lets you kite and live and stuff. But Viru does a ton of damage, and it's one of my favorite specs to play in this bracket. You'll notice in this parse, I do dot call rather than refresh dots immediately. And you have to do that in lows because you don't get the secondary dot. So the only way to make sure that your call windows sync with your dot uptime is to make sure that when your dots fall off, you refresh them immediately before call. So yeah, what you would do then is on your last call when your dots fall off, you either do 2 snipes or you do what the fuck is it called, the shooty gun move, Pen Blast, but not Pen Blast, you do that one. And then you refresh and then you call again. So yeah, it's a little wonky to play when you're single targeting if you want to be like optimal or whatever, but super good in PvP. This shit, A tier, solidly A tier. The only thing that holds this thing back from being A+, along with the other sniper specs, as you will see, is that we don't get any healing. If this had cover heal, it would be S. Alright, next up, just ahead of Viru is Madness. Madness surprised me. I didn't think it would parse so high. You have to run Shock Bomb to do this parse, and I think Shock Bomb is ultra cringe. I don't believe in Shock Bomb. I don't believe in Death Brand. I think this shit was meant to be played as a cleave spec. I don't know why the devs keep giving cleave to single target specs, dots to single target specs, and giving single target burst to dot specs and cleave. Like, what the fuck, man? Just, I don't know. The world's going crazy, but this is the easy mode Sork spec for people who don't know how to play Lightning. It's super easy to be force positive, and instant overloaded strike is great for cleave. It's just free cleave. It just option selects cleave. I always run overloaded strike in lows and mids and 80s because Tempest of Row with this, oh, oof, it's beautiful. During polarity shift, I would spam hardcast overload strike. You can spread both dots at 43, which is kind of insane. I personally don't like running Shock Bomb, as I mentioned, but it's an option if you want it. The best thing about Madness, though, in lows is that your bubble heals you for 1% every second, which is fucking crazy. Like, it doesn't sound like a lot, but that is a lot of free healing while you're just kiting and lining and shit. Yeah, it's pretty easy to live Lord on Madness. You can kite for a very long time and do a ton of damage. Yeah, there is, like, nothing wrong with the spec. You can just live Lord and, yeah, it's good. It's good. A+. Alright, next up, the first spec to pass the 26k threshold, we get Deception. They just cut the fuck out of this in mids. It sucks in mids now. In 80s, it is Discharge Simulator, which is kind of cringe. But in lows, it is like the highest parsing melee spec in lows. Doesn't mean it's the best melee spec in lows. I think Fury is easily better, but it's cool. Deception is force positive at level 43 because Voltaic gives you force. You can run the Reaping Strike cooldown reduction, and yeah, you just press 4 buttons. It's like Reaping Strike, Discharge, Shock, Voltaic. Voltaic is the best filler global in lows, unless you count like Viru, Suppressive Fire, and Cleave when you have your dots up or something, but yeah, it's really good. The only downside is force speed doesn't work. I don't know if I mentioned that yet, but force speed doesn't exist in lows because it doesn't purge movement effects. So yeah, deception is like it's gonna lose to basically anything with any range always in a 1v1, but you do a ton of damage. I don't really know how to like rank this thing, but I'm gonna put it into A- for swag factor. I think that if you're playing this well, you're doing like 17, 18k in lows on say like that's kind of nice. I like that, so I'm gonna throw this an A-. Alright, next up, just ahead of deception, we get a spec that surprised me really like a lot. Engineering. I didn't think Eng would be that good in lows, but it's really good. In 80s, super cringe. If you play this spec, you're just like, I don't know, man. I don't know what to say. There's nothing to be said about this shit in 80s. But in lows, it's kind of swag. Surprisingly powerful, surprisingly easy to manage energy. I thought energy management would be the big problem, but it's not. So I don't know. I think 43 gives you a passive that helps. But yeah, it does a lot of damage. The crit buff that you get at 43 is insane. Yeah, explosive charge is like, what is it, like 90k or something? And you get one of the best, you get the best dot in lows. The only downside is you can't spread it, so I guess it's not as good as like corrosive or whatever, but yeah, it's just good. I love Eng. I didn't know I'd like it so much, but engineering is fucking great in lows. It's cool. So yeah, I'm gonna put this in A with Viru. And now right ahead of engineering is the other sniper spec, which is the highest parsing sniper spec single target, and you know, it makes sense to me. It's marksman. The ambush, white damage generally in lows is scaled very well. Yeah, I was just blown away. I didn't know marksman fucked this hard, but it goes crazy. Ambush is nuts. Pen rounds is like the best move in the bracket probably. Pen rounds is crazy. This shit is like an 80k move every time. It is so good, and it, you know, drops the cooldown on your auto crit ambush. Ambush is very short cooldown. I didn't really know how to parse this. You know, like when you parse range shit with Cass, you can't always tell if it's better to like have the APM be perfect or like wait that little bit to get like the ambush instead of another like snipe in between. I did 3 attempts, and I did one attempt where I like hard committed to one thing, another where I hard committed to the other thing, and I noticed that it seemed better to just get the snipe in. I think if the alacrity was very slightly different, it would be the other way, but yeah, I don't know if I parsed this well. It's like 27k marksman though. It's as second highest thing here. It feels good. I'm gonna put this in A. It just kills shit. You play this in arenas, you get your nut off, you kite, get your nut off, kite, you just cycle that. Yeah, it's really good. You do have to have this egg though if you're solo queuing this in arenas, so yeah, but A. Okay, so now on to the best, or well, okay, it is also the best spec in the bracket. I'll spoil it. Fucking lightning, dude. Holy shit. Highest parsing spec in lows, and do not be fooled by halted offensive being used in this parse. Never use halted offensive in PvP. Shit's cringe. But chain lightning still does like 25k single target, which is more. Well, it's not more. It's like on par with shock bomb, death brand, madness, which like that's nuts. Yeah, this spec is easily the best cleave in the entire bracket, and like maybe the best single target in the entire bracket. Like it's nuts. It's crazy. What makes lightning so stupidly oppressive though isn't even this crazy damage. It's that you just spam roots. It puts out roots on everything. The standard cleave rotation, when you're starting without any procs, is you hardcast Chain Lightning, you single tick Force Storm to detonate Force Current, you instant cast Chain Lightning with the proc, and then you full cast Force Storm, and then you get one global of your choice, which, if you have sustained cleave with a lot, like a healer's RNQ, you would Affliction somebody, you would like put a dot on somebody. You might Thundering Blast for your next Chain Lightning damage if you're taking the 10% buff. Or you might Shock, which is your highest per activation GCD, because it hits twice. I don't know if you guys know this, but Lightning Shock hits twice. It just does 2 hits. This shit is like a 50k per activation move. But yeah, and then you just repeat that cycle. It's really, really good. And in that example, you know, there were the little rotation, the five ability rotation has 4 abilities that root. Chain Lightning roots, Force Storm roots, because Force Current. So, like, yeah, I don't even know what to say about that. You get an extra root too if you take Thundering Blast root, which is actually amazing, since in the cleave rotation that I showed earlier, Thundering Blast fits right before the hardcast Chain Lightning and doesn't proc it. Which is like, that is the, it's like 100% root uptime. This shit is crazy. So yeah, when you combine the fucking root simulator with the best DPS output in the bracketing single target, if you know, take culted, whatever, or the best cleave output if you're running Chain Lightning, which it certainly has. There's no, I don't think Viru outparses Ling in cleave. I might be wrong, but I would bet that Ling will beat it. And yeah, when you combine that with the roots and its ability to heal itself, so you can run Mending Relic, you can kite, you can do all that stuff, it's pretty clear why this is the best spec in the whole game. Certainly the best DPS spec. I think it is better than both of the really strong tank specs. By the way, when you single target parse Lightning with Chain Lightning, you still do the Force Storm route, because every second cycle, so the way you do it is after the instant Chain Lightning, you do Crushing Darkness into Shock, but then Shock is on cooldown for the next instant Chain Lightning. And during that window, you do Lightning Strike, whatever, the filler fucking move, and then you do 1 tick of Force Storm, and then you hardcast Chain Lightning again. So it's like, you're just spamming roots no matter what. No matter how you try to play Lightning, if you play it with any semblance of correctness, or like you have 2 IQ on Lightning, your opponents are rooted the entire game, and it does so much damage. This, I don't want everybody playing Lightning, but I gotta be honest, this might deserve S+. Like, this shit is fucking stupid. So yeah, top of S, best in the game. There you go. Well, gamers, there you have it. That is my tier list for Low's PvP. The next video, part 2, whatever, will be a guide on how to gear and how to get ready for it. I'm gonna take the band-aid off. You know, for a long time the Hammer Squad Research Division has hoarded the arcane knowledge around optimal bolster cheesing, but yeah, I don't know, I might as well spread the knowledge. Fuck it, I don't even play this game that much. I'd be on Minecraft and shit. I'd be on Melee ranked still, terrorizing ladder. Yeah, I'm out here, so that is Lowbie. Hopefully this has enlightened you. I think Lowbies are fun, and also I just got one little schizo rant, okay? People say, you know, the big boys are in 80s. I've heard this so many times. Dog, I queue that bracket, I see 10k Andes, and then I get bored and I leave. You know what happens when I queue lows? Sometimes I run into, like, people in my friend group, and then, you know, if that's the case, if I'm running into those people in lows and I'm running into 10k Andes and 80s, lows is more competitive. It's fucking terrifying. You ever fight like a nasty jug tank? You can just ask the forums what it's like to be terrorized by Mare. You know, so sorry for stealing the Mare name, by the way. I did it to troll one very specific person who's fucking terrified of that name. But yeah, I I should end this here. I will see you around. Peace.